Yes, it is that time of the year, the new year. Happy New Year. Um, yeah, I have no words to describe the feeling that I'm experiencing at this point in the new year. No, man. Hope you guys had a wild time and enjoyed bringing in this rotation of the calendar. And another one begins. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Another one bites the dust. I don't think it's going to be that. But of course, I don't think you should look. I think you should all set a resolution for yourself. The first week of the new year, you can start it at any point, and I've spoken about this every first episode of every new year. Maybe I haven't. Maybe it's been in my head, and I haven't brought it out to public. Sorry, that's my. I have no clue what's going on. Yeah, clearly something going on. There's some stuff which is New Year craze going on. No, it's just the constant noise which is at home. I apologize. That's my dog barking at an insect which she's extremely intimidated by. But hey, what are you going to do about it? Anyhow, so as I said, a couple of things you can do. Now, the first thing is, I think I'm starting my new year today, and by today I mean the 3rd of January. I've recorded this a few days before the episode comes out. Oh my god, he led us into a secret. But I think you should figure out a day that works for you. Another thing is, the resolution which I mentioned is to not read any form of news for the first week of the year, or maybe for the rest of the year, because it's totally full of shit. I mean, unless of course you have a good news source and you really want the news, because I think you can really live a life of peace and enjoyment without being bogged down by unnecessary shit that you don't need to know about. Like, I was reading the news today, and there was stuff which something to do with flights being cancelled. Of course, now if you are a person flying, you obviously are on top of it, and you need to read up on the updates that the airline or the travel industry is posting. But if I'm sitting here, the first thing on the Guardian app was 4,000 plus flights cancelled. I'm like, oh fuck. It's bad for people flying. I'm not flying anywhere anytime soon, and even if I am, it's within India, and that flight and those flights aren't affected. So why the fuck do I care, right? The second thing now, a couple of other news articles, and because for me the thing is, I like news which is interesting. Like, for instance, they were talking about the guy in the great leader who fought apartheid in South Africa. I think Desmond Tutu, that's his name, and how they use this process called aquamation to break down his remains, his mortal remains, into an urn. They didn't use cremation, but they used aquamation, which is a process developed by laboratories to get done with remains of animals that they were testing on. So this is a more environmentally friendly procedure. I see, that's information that I've shared with you. Now you can read up more about it if it's something that interests you, and that's the way you want to be sent off back to the mud, as one of these authors that I'm reading says it beautifully, back to the mud. If it doesn't interest you, fuck it. You're like, yeah, this guy's talking shit. Cool. But things like 4,000 flights, or how Boris Johnson's Christmas party, like, fuck Boris Johnson. He doesn't affect me. He doesn't affect you. What are the other things? Or, like, for instance, now, yeah, see, there's that thing, that company called Evergreen or Evergrande in China, the real estate company. They're no longer trading on their shares are no longer trading on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Now, if you're a person who's invested, or you're a person in finance, okay, cool. But why the fuck do I need it? I'm saying, you need to figure out what you want from your news. Do you want news that informs you? Do you want news that agitates you? Do you want news that you can just sort of take it up and vomit it out in conversations so you look like you're worldly, that you're a person who's aware? And why do you have to be aware? Now, if you're someone whose job, or someone who wants to talk about it, and sometimes I'd like to read this stuff, because there are things like about the planet, like, that entire thing which happened in Denmark was horrific. And I was like, fuck, I need to find people to talk about what is being done to prevent, like, whaling and those kind of things for the podcast. So I like to keep an eye out, keep an ear out. And I use The Guardian as one of my sources. And sometimes you come across some amazing people doing amazing work. And sometimes I come across ideas to bitch about and to ponder. So that's why I get my news. But I realize many times it's like, okay, there's another thing. Like people are talking about the Omicron variant and how it's how Fauci is being grouchy and saying shit like, oh, we don't have to look at case numbers, case loads, we have to look at hospitalization numbers, and all these things. Now, I think a lot of times we have to look at the local situation when it comes to of course, with the pandemic or with travel, which affects us. But many times I'm like, why are we bothered about things because happening at the other end of the globe, right? Because while it is, of course, a combined effort of humanity to this thing, clearly a collective effort has not been balanced when it comes to fucking up resources, right? It's been an imbalanced approach where certain countries have been more greedy with the way they have consumed resources, and other countries just fuck a lot more and have a lot more people. So it really is an imbalanced approach. So why is it like, oh my god, I feel so bad for like the yes, I don't get it. If you're that kind of person who wants to feel bad and just be like, oh my god, poor things, then you read the news for your own reasons. But what I'm trying to say is, come to a point of understanding yourself as to why you want inputs in your life, whether it's information, whether it's news, whether it's gossip, whatever the fuck it may be. Do it and then enjoy it. Otherwise, don't fucking do it. It's that simple. But hey, while we're on the cozy topic of Omicron, I didn't find out, some other journalist, some brave investigative journalist has put out this thing. And as another thing I read in the news today is there's this thing, they call it the mystery illness, the neurological thing. They don't know what it is. In New Brunswick, Canada, where all the people from Canada live, and no jokes about this, but there's apparently this thing which is attacking youngsters. It's a neurological attack. It's an attack on their neurological systems, where like suddenly like 30-year-old people are just, it's like a wasting disease where like they go into this fugue, their muscles start wasting, their brain start sort of getting into confusion, they get disorientated, hallucinating, and they don't know what it is. And I think there's one whistleblower, another whistleblower for the new year, has said that it's cause for concern, but the public authorities are hushing it down. They don't know. They said it's a BMAA, it's some chemical or something which is found in lobsters or something along the coast. I don't know enough, but if it's something which they're trying to hush, I think they said 8 people died last year. Beginning of the year, 48 people. It's so maybe this is something that we have to worry about. And we're kind of being sidelined by COVID and Omicron. Maybe there's a real threat from New Brunswick, and it's being hushed because it's a Western country and not the Eastern Bloc or the East Asian or whatever the dreaded enemy states. So think about that. Maybe that's a bit of news that you need to look into. And if you did look into it, and maybe later down the line it's something which I hope it's not, I hope those people recover. But yeah, it's the shit that our environment, and we need to know what's happening in our environment, because however connected the world is, yes, I would like to save the Amazon, and I think that's an important noble cause, but I also am more affected by what's going on at the fucking lake next door, because that is going to affect my health more immediately, and it's going to have more of an impact on the groundwater that I'm drinking, the air that I'm breathing, and the particles in the air that are going into my fucking organs than the Amazon. Because of course, yes, burning down the trees, clearing the Amazon, of course it's going to wipe out a lot of species. It's going to contribute to greenhouse gases, or rather not regulating greenhouse gases. But that'll probably affect me in 10 years or maybe 15 years. But overflowing sewage or lakes being completely sort of taken over for housing developments, proper sort of ways of, the old plans where we could have water runoffs, we could have sewage management, all that being taken away, or trees being cut down, or whatever the shit is happening around my house, is my local environment, which I have to be worried about more than the little Greta Thunberg. I was going to say the C word, but no, I'm not going to say it. Screaming about it, because I understand, of course, but look out around you. I'm being one of those militant table activists, desktop activists, those armchair activists, I think that's the right word, sitting there for the sake of arguing. And I have friends like this, just for the sake of fucking arguing. They're like, no, I think, and about anything and everything, right? They know everything about pregnancy, they know everything about the environment, they know everything about how history and how the patriarchy is fucking it up, how toxic masculinity is the worst thing. And I'm like, fuck, okay, but do you know, can you clean your own shit, bitch? Kind of thing, right? And they clearly don't. So yeah, this is just something which I'm sort of approaching the new year with. It's one of those times where you ponder life and you think about how you want to live your life and how you want to approach the new year. And I know it's a calendar year. It's just the same day. It's just another same 24-hour cycle. It's just another spin of the planet. But I suppose it's a good time because we're forced to sort of think in this way. We've been conditioned that the new year is a new start. So since that's the conditioning that we've all been brought up with, might as well use it as a point to reset the approach to life, to reset the way in which we evaluate what is important, what we want to do, how we want to look at life, and why we do things that we do. So that's just a little starting thing for this episode. But having said that, I'm going to move on to the conversation with my guest. And as the title of the episode would have let you into the secret, the guy's name is Papa CJ. He's a friend. He's a comedian. He's been at it for quite a few years, as you'll find out. He does a lot of private and corporate shows, but he's also done a few public shows. We worked together. We were together in Edinburgh for a few weeks. We got drunk, very drunk a few times, but we got drunk very often. So there's both combinations. And yeah, I just wanted to catch up with him and talk about what's going on in his life and how he, kind of handled his business during the lockdown in 2021. And we did this in the last week of December, and it's coming out now for your listening pleasure as we speak. So do follow him. All his details are in the description, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. It's fun, just a couple of guys shooting the shit. And thank you for being a listener of this podcast. I really appreciate all the time you've spent listening to my trash, my crap, my opinions, my theories. From the bottom of my heart, I sincerely thank you, and I hope you have a fantastic year ahead, and I hope you do whatever it takes to find that peace of mind, the balance, and the sense of happiness that I think all of you deserve. So enjoy the conversation, enjoy life, enjoy 2022, and as always, goodbye, God bless, cheers, and see you on the other side. Papa CJ, Mr. CJ, my friend, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
All good, my friend. All good.
I want to throw every pronoun at you, man. I just want to confuse the fuck out of Papa, Mr., Sister.
Dude, this is 2022, so pronouns are very important now.
Hey, not yet. I think this will be easy. Yours will be the last episode. If not, maybe I think yours is going to be the first episode of 2022, man. How cool is that? So we're kicking off the SoapyRao show with someone who cares about pronouns.
you start off people's ears with the disappointment.
I doubt it, dude. I think the world is a disappointment. I think we existing is I don't know. How's it been for you? Because I think the last we met was 2000. No, did we meet after the Fringe? I don't think so.
Here's the funny thing. Actually, yesterday I was going through some old photos. And I remember the night we spent at the Abattoir, which is the bar at the Fringe.
The Access, which you got me into with all these big comedians there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just looking at some of those photographs of you with, Dara O'Brien and Jason Byrne, Ed Byrne. And you're like a kid in a candy shop, man.
I really was. Man, because you were like, Navees, like, she said the same thing. She's like, God, this Sandeep last night was like, oh my God, it's Dara O'Brien. Now the other side, it's this guy. Who are the other people there? I think Jimmy Carr was there. I didn't meet him. Daniel Schloss was there. Then there was, was Graham Norton there?
Jimmy was there. Daniel was there. No, Graham wasn't there that night.
But it was amazing. Then I ended up meeting Phil Nickel, who had performed at B Flat. And I was like, I know you. He's like, I know you. Let's get drunk. It was amazing.
Phil is great. Yeah, he's just such a fireball of energy.
Oof, and dude, I don't know how famous he is, but that ego hasn't got to him, man. He was just the same guy who came and partied with us in Bangalore, you know?
I
And
find that happens a lot with a lot of the comics I've worked with on the circuit in the UK, who are
mm,
now just really famous acts,
mm,
are still just regular guys. I mean, this
mm.
whole celebrityness doesn't really
Get to
get to
them.
the heads up.
But I mean, have you noticed? Have you done a lot of? Okay, yeah. Have you done a lot of work in the US? Because that's some place I haven't. I mean, I haven't done the UK or the US. I've done the Fringe. That's about it. But you've done both countries,
See, I
both
haven't
continents.
done a lot in the US, but also what I found, one of the key differences that,
Mm.
so I've done about 700 odd shows in the UK, right?
That's
And
where you started out, right? That's when you picked up your socks
yeah,
from an open mic to being a road
yeah.
comic, right? Right.
And stand up in the UK is very much a part of the culture. Like, I've performed
Yeah.
in more than 65 odd cities in the UK, right?
Mm.
Now, every town has a comedy club or a comedy night. It's just part of the ethos or way of life of that country.
Mm.
And for a comedian, stand up is an end in itself.
Right.
In a lot of cases in the US, especially the West Coast or sort of LA side, stand up is a means to an end. I'm going to do my
Mm.
7 minute spot. I'm going to get noticed, and I'm going to get a development deal for a sitcom. So it's about
Yeah.
getting famous, or it's about getting TV, or about getting film.
I think
Whereas in
that's
the UK, it's
changing though,
about, yeah,
bro. I think it's gone full circle because I think now I'm hearing at least from people is that, I think it's a lot of the comedy club culture is a fabric of society. But I think there are people, of course, who still use it as a way to get to the next level. But of course, now
sure,
the next level has changed, right? From
yeah,
sitcoms, now it's either web series or
yeah.
OTT contracts, right? But I think,
But I'm just going to interrupt you there, Sandeep,
yeah.
because I question whether is it the next level. Why do we choose to call
Absolutely.
it the next
Yeah.
level?
No, what I meant by next level is
Yeah,
what they perceive it as. Because of whatever reason, they perceive stand up as a stepping stone. And I disagree
yeah,
because I think you and I think, see eye to eye, maybe not entirely eye to eye, but you get my drift, where
yeah,
it comes to enjoying this art form
yeah,
and not worrying about the label so much, right? Because I think that's something I want to ask you. Like the past 2 years, okay, almost 2 years,
yeah.
um, so you've been no, we're sitting in beginning of 2022. So you've been a stand-up comedian for what, 15 years now? 17 years?
Yeah. So I started towards the end of 2004. So yeah, 17 years
18,
now.
yeah, 17, 18 years. And
Yeah,
I'm about half, maybe a little more than half. I'm about 11 years in,
yeah,
maybe no, actually more, like 2009, so just about 13 years maybe. And
yeah,
I want to understand two things, right? One is um maybe asking you the fact that how much has it changed is probably too vast a question because it's too many things that have
yeah,
come in, but maybe okay, when things came to a standstill with the lockdown,
yeah,
for someone like you who relies on live shows
yeah,
and not only on say online revenue, be it YouTube
yeah,
or be it with whatever writing assignments,
yeah.
I don't know what your source of income are, but you
It's
rely a
it's
lot
just
on
live stand up, man.
live stand up, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, what was it like? What were your thoughts at that point?
Sandeep, I'm the kind of guy who's not one. I don't panic.
Mm,
I'm not. Whenever I'm in a situation and something changes, like COVID coming around, I'm
yeah.
not suddenly thinking, oh, you know, uh, crap, my source of income is not going to be
Mm,
around.
mm,
Two, fortunately, my needs are very limited. You know,
mm,
uh, I'm very fortunate that I don't have to pay rent,
yeah.
and even if I tried, I don't think I can spend more than 20,000 rupees in a month because I hardly eat out. I'll
Mm,
buy one shirt that fits. I'll pick a shirt that fits. I'll buy 5 colors. I'm done for the next 2 years.
mm,
I don't have expensive tastes. I'll
mm,
play maybe one round of golf a month, which will cost me 2,000 rupees, and
yeah.
I'll eat out 3 or 4 times. So
Mm,
when your cost of living is low, then you're a little less stressed. But also,
mm,
what tends to happen is that I'm never stressed about change, and I always somehow I'm able to look at the positive. Now, all my
right.
life, I've gone around. I've never been just like you. I'm not a big YouTube person or you know, I, I'm not. I don't enjoy sort of being in front of the camera and then spending time editing and posting and promoting. It's just not
Mm,
what I want to spend my time
It's a
doing.
lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't leave the corporate world to join a creative field and be in a rat race in the creative field.
Yeah, and that's what gets me. Like when I watch some of these golf YouTube videos, whether it's Rick Shields or whether it's James Robinson or whether it's someone making these car reviews, it's it's fantastic. I like consuming it because I love to see
Sure.
what's out there. But as someone, I like this. I like doing what I'm doing now, and because it's
Yeah,
free flowing, I don't have to sit now and make timestamps and go back to it, and because it's not
yeah,
my strength, right? My strength is to
yeah,
enjoy conversations and make people
yeah,
laugh or entertain them in whatever shape or
yeah,
form I can. But
yeah,
it is a lot of work,
yeah.
and in fact, I think in
And we're
many,
lazy fuckers, man. We didn't get
of
into this
course,
profession because we
yeah.
want to work hard.
I mean, I'd rather, if I'm working that 1 hour, I'd rather work it out on stage or I work on a new joke,
Yeah,
as opposed to how do
yeah.
I use the right title to get the algorithm to work in my favor. I'm like, are you fucking crazy, dude? No,
Seriously, dude.
no,
I
but
mean,
you mentioned this thing of becoming a simpler person. Sorry, I just wanted to talk about that point.
yeah,
Um, And I don't think I'm against any of these platforms. I think they're all tools, right? YouTube or
yeah,
social media in general, they're just tools, and some people use it well. Some people have decided to
yeah.
make that their livelihood, and you
Sure.
and I have
Good
chosen
for
not
them.
to. Exactly.
Yeah,
But you mentioned this thing of living a simpler life now.
yeah.
Was that the case in this space of entertainment for you through your entire comedy thing, or were you a flashier person and went through the entire rigmarole of, oh my god, I'm famous, people recognize me, I'm going to party all night, I have the ladies
No.
sending? Were you ever that
See,
person?
one, I grew up in a family where we never had the income to be that kind of person,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
So as a result, you never had those habits and you never
Hmm.
developed those tastes, you know.
But I'm
And
sure you did see the life when you were
I've
traveling
seen
as a
it,
corporate
of course.
comic, when you were living from 5 star to 5 star, living out of your suitcase, business class, here, there, here, there.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. I love being on a business class flight. I love staying in nice hotels.
Mhm.
I love being able to pick up the phone in a nice hotel and say, I want, and
Yeah.
whatever comes after that,
Yeah.
they're supposed to do. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love that. I still do,
Mhm.
but a lot of these hotels you stay at when you travel for work, sometimes you want to go on a holiday and you call to check what they cost and you're like, what?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
once I was doing a show in New York and my
Mm.
client had put me up for 3 nights at the Mandarin Oriental on
Mm.
Columbus Circle overlooking Central Park.
Mm.
So, I thought, what? Why don't I extend for a day? I can pick up the cost on my own. So I called up reception, and it's a Manhattan hotel, so it's
Mm.
tiny, right?
Yeah.
And I called up the hotel and I said, I wanted to stay one more night. What would the room cost me?
Mm.
I said, sir, it'll be only $950.
You're
So
fucking crazy, dude.
I called up my cousin and I went and slept on his couch. I was
The
like,
ben-
I'll take the couch, buddy.
See, this is why it's good to be an Indian, right? One is you get audiences around the world. Second, you have sofas around the world.
So here's the thing, right? I find this is what the difference is with, I'm 44 now, almost
Mm.
45. With
Right.
our generation and this new Gen Z, right? Now people go for holidays to places they want to go. Right? We used to go for holidays to places where we had somebody who we could stay with.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Oh,
True.
let's go there because that person is there. Let's go there
Yeah.
because that person is there.
No,
Yeah.
and I think I think it's a great generation. It also has, of course, its downsides with the amount of input they have. I think many of them have grown up with smartphones and social media, so
Yeah.
there is definitely some detriment to their mental health. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are in the thing where we were told that, okay, you have to have this thing, you have these check boxes that you check to be considered a
Yeah.
successful member, contributing member of your family and society.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are like, fuck it, I don't want to save up to buy a house. I don't have to buy a car.
Yeah.
I'll use Uber.
Yeah.
I'll rent the dream house that I want. I'll travel
Yeah.
and work wherever. I think that's amazing, right? Not having
Yeah.
that attachment or that pressure. But
Absolutely.
at the same time, when they don't have that, they are pressured by this image that social media wants them to keep. And many of them can't break that trap. And I think that is a little scary and sad in some situations.
Yeah. I think this whole sense of self-worth that is coming from external validation,
Yeah.
this constant need for likes and shares. And
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's good for anybody's well-being.
And okay, I want to use that as a point in our career, right? Because stand up, when you started out was
Yeah.
just when Russell Peters' YouTube sensation was starting out, 2004,
Yeah.
right? I think it just kicked off then.
Yeah.
So now what I don't get is, for me, 2020 was a wake up call, right? Because it was about 10 years in, maybe just about 10 years into comedy. I just finished
Yeah.
recording my special, which I never thought I'd give it that much attention. For me, I always love performing live. The joke takes a
Yeah.
different sort of angle. It takes a sort of
Yeah.
life of its own in each show, sometimes
Yeah.
for the better, sometimes for the worse.
Yeah.
But I actually just, as scripted as possible. I'm not a scripted person at all, but I had to worry
Yeah.
about the camera crew, which I've paid for. So I'm like, well, there's a lot of money
Yeah.
online. So
Yeah.
the closest I've come to a proper recording, taping of a special. And
Yeah.
then this lockdown happened, and I, I'm the kind of person typically would be like, oh fuck, what's next? But I didn't
Yeah.
panic because, as you said, I have a home, I have food, and I
Yeah.
think I can manage. You know what I mean? I'm not the kind
Yeah.
of guy who's got investments and savings everywhere. I was safe.
Yeah.
But then it was a great wake up call for me to understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing. And that's in
Yeah.
all aspects of my life, whether I'm working out, is it for someone else or for me? Am I,
Yeah.
because that's all external validation, right? Because you're built
Yeah.
into this feedback loop where you work out,
Yeah.
whether it's your mom or your wife or your girlfriend or your friends will be
Yeah.
like, dude, you're amazing, you're fit looking, or someone on social media is like, dude, you're looking buff, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do another workout,
Yeah.
as opposed to you doing it for yourself and not worrying about the outcome, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing in stand up. I realized that 2020 had gotten to a point with all the conversations, and I think we've spoken about this, with the noise around us, whether it's like who's got what special, how many tickets this one sold, how many shows, how many tours, how many jokes, how many fans.
Yeah.
It became more about that than the prime reason why I got into stand up, which is, hey, that's fucking funny. Let's share it with a
Well,
group of people. You
so
know?
I think I'm slightly removed from that. I understand
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I've never been part of that whole who's got how many fans, who's got how many specials.
Mm.
I always wish, well on everybody. Great
Yeah.
that people are succeeding.
Yeah.
But also I'm very clear about the fact that I I got into this profession for me,
Mm. Yeah.
because it's something that I enjoy doing. So even though
Mm.
there may be aspects of this profession which are, from an external point of view, seen as markers of success,
Yeah.
I'm not going to chase them. I mean, so for
How do
example,
you
the
stay
fact
away
is,
from it? Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's when you've got your values and priorities right. When I
Right.
did Last Comic Standing in the US,
Right.
it was a global TV show. I got into the top 10. I
Yeah,
had
that
a
was your big
US
break, right? Your first break.
I had a US work permit for 2 years. 15 million people in the US watched that program. It sets you up for making a career in the US.
And
But
in
I
fact, I
had
spoke to
just
Butch
moved back.
Bradley, CJ,
Yeah,
and he was telling me about how a guy who won AGT or was one of the finalists on America's Got Talent as a comedian
yeah,
has this sold out night at the Vegas club next door
yeah,
to where Butch performs. And
yeah,
the reason why he brought that up is he said, dude, that guy did really well for like
yeah,
8 minutes or 10 minutes, but people will come going, oh, that's the guy from AGT or whatever, but he's not able to hold them after a point. So I just wanted
yeah.
to bring
So
that in there, yeah,
yeah, so
because
there's two aspects to it. One, but at that point, I didn't go to the US. I decided to come back to India because I wanted to be close to my family. That
yeah,
was what was more important to me.
right,
Today, the fact is, if I'm sitting out of Bombay, my career, supposedly, as they say, career, can progress at 5 times the pace.
yes,
Because you're in Bombay, you're doing sitcoms, you're writing whatever.
yeah,
But throughout the lockdown, every single day, I get to go and have a coffee with my dad in
yeah,
the
yeah,
morning.
yeah,
Now, that is more important to me.
yeah,
And with regard to what you said about Butch, uh, what happens is nowadays, I sometimes say that people want to learn the tricks of the trade before they learn the trade.
yeah.
Right?
That's what he was
Because
saying.
you'll
Yeah,
you'll do this 5 minute video, you'll get 5 million views, you'll fill up a theater, but 5 million views on the internet doesn't teach you how to hold a live audience for an hour.
yeah.
You know,
And you see a lot of
so
those examples nowadays where the people are like, "Oh my God, it's this." It's more the
yeah,
selfie, and
yeah,
they're like, "Oh my God, it's amazing." And it's. I mean, I feel bad for some of these guys because they haven't worked out how it's amazing to be in front of the
it
cameras, man. I think it's great, but I think not taking away from anyone's success. I, it's terrifying sometimes to know that you have five people in a 100-seater
yeah,
and you still have to do that show the way they deserve to hear it. But
dude.
when you do it for those five people with that, the feeling is fucking amazing.
I,
It makes you
I did
feel
a
like
1 hour. I did a 1 hour Edinburgh show for 3 people once.
hey,
Three,
that's three more than I had for most of mine.
three in a 100-seater, dude.
Oh, you had a
It
okay. Now mine was a 45
crushes you.
seater. It crushes you,
It
but
it.
yeah.
But also, I remember doing a gig in. Uh, there was this uh, another 200-seater. I did a show for 11 people from 10 different countries, and it was fantastic. Right?
Yeah, man.
What people don't realize is that performing to 11 people is much harder than performing to 1,000.
I think that
Because
can't be stressed enough. I think I was just thinking about that, right? When there are 11 people, like, and this is where the rooms like B
see,
flat and Humming Tree made
yeah,
me a stronger comedian. Is
yeah,
when you just have them cheering, because that's what bigger groups do. They're like one person cheers or 10 people cheer, the remaining 20 are like, we look like fools if we don't cheer or whatever, right? That
yeah.
sort of
So
wave builds up. But
in a
in that,
exactly in a 1,000-seater, if
yeah,
500 people don't laugh, no problem. You've still got laughter.
that's
When
bigger
you've got
percentage. Yeah, bigger
when
number
you've got
laughing.
11 people there, if
Yeah,
7 of them don't laugh,
yeah.
the other 4 will also think, "Fuck, we better shut up, otherwise we look like the weird guys laughing."
Yeah. Hey,
So
but you mentioned
it's
this important thing once. And I like that line. You mentioned that as you get more comfortable and more confident as a performer, as a stand-up, you get to appreciate. I don't know quote you on this, but in a nutshell, you said you get to appreciate those silences and don't panic and you don't panic and you don't panic and you
so.
don't basically rush the laughter.
Uh,
You know.
so here's the thing, right? The true test of an audience, I
Yeah.
believe, is not how much they're laughing or clapping.
Mm.
Because, and you learn this the hard way. I remember I did a gig. It was a black underground comedy club
Mm.
in London,
Mm.
and it was run by a comedian called Kojo, based in the UK.
Yeah.
And we did this gig that night. It was insane. The guys were clapping, cheering, they were banging on the chairs, they were standing up, they were hooting.
Mm.
And the next day, I go to this gig in a very proper upper middle class town southwest of England,
Mm.
and I do this show, and people are like smiling. There's a little ho ho ho, that's
Mm.
nice, very polite. And I thought I was dying on stage. I
Ah.
felt terrible. I walked off stage, and people came up to me and say, "Oh, we really enjoyed that." And I was like, "Boss, why couldn't you tell your face?" But then you realize that people enjoy things differently.
Yeah.
So the test of an audience is not how much they're laughing or clapping, but when you pause, how much silence there is. Because then you've got them in the palm of your hand,
Mm.
and because in an auditorium, if there's 1,000 people, 20 people laugh, you've got laughter.
Yeah.
20 people clap, you've got applause. But for silence, all 1,000 of them need to participate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's an incredibly powerful feeling. Actually, you feel power. Where
Mm.
just before the punchline, you pause, there's pin drop silence, and then you drop that punchline and boom. Oh my God, it is
Yeah.
magic.
And that will never happen at a corporate, right? Because you're not in control of the environment. I mean,
Because the
not
fucking bar is open. Somebody saying, "Yaar,
exactly.
ek beer dena, man."
Exactly. And I find that very insulting, not to me, but any performer, right? Like the thing is that I mean, as you said, the open bar or whether
Yeah.
it's kind of like that that ambient noise, you're the elevator music. So people,
But Sandeep, I figured out. So in fact, I run a, a training program or a
yeah.
coaching program, which is called a Comedian's Guide to Communication Strategy.
Mm.
And I break down how, as comics, the strategies we use to grab and retain attention in
Yeah.
an age of limited attention spans, and how that applies to corporates or individuals.
Yeah.
One of the things I talk about is exactly this. This is what happens in a corporate show. A lot of comedians will say, "Oh, it's terrible because the bar is happening, this and that." And this is the lesson that I pull out of that is that, so at a corporate show, I'll tell my client that this is the scene. See, music can run in the background. For us, people need to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
And unlike a regular gig, a stage show where people have come to watch you, at a corporate show, they've come for an awards or something else, and you're telling them
Yeah.
to shut up and listen to this person.
They've
So
come to
we make
network or Arslick or whatever they do at corporate.
we make an
venues.
announcement in advance. There's a comedy show. It's going to start in 15 minutes. The bar will be closed. The show will last for 40 minutes. If you're the kind of person who needs 3 drinks in 40 minutes, pick up your 3 drinks and grab a seat.
Mm.
So the lesson I try and take out is that today I have something wonderful to offer the client or my
Yeah.
consumer or my, whoever it is.
Yeah.
you have to educate them on
Yeah,
how
yeah,
to
yeah,
get the
yeah.
best out of you. Sometimes
No,
they
that's
just don't know.
absolutely
So that's really important.
yeah, because you can't. You know, one thing I've noticed is now people think that it's not that. I feel when people are jumping the gun, right? And
Yeah.
I don't mean that everywhere. Oh, you know the conversation, right? Like, oh, I had it hard, so everyone should learn. Yeah, no, I don't think that's the case. But I think there are certain basic fundamental learning. Like, for instance, if you're performing in a room which is not set up for comedy, then you change up the chairs, set up the
Yeah.
mic, do a sound check. But I
Yeah.
feel in when some people jump the queue as things get easier, as people come in saying, oh, there's already 4 or 5 companies who are willing to manage me.
Yeah.
What happens is, I mean, there's a fun idea in, I'm not saying it's fun to perform for one person and everyone should do it. It's, of course, it's a part of the journey. I've done it, you've done it. Not everyone has to do it, but when you know how a room should feel for comedy, it makes you a better performer, as opposed to someone who is sitting on the tour bus or in your five
Where,
star suite,
where,
and someone's done a sound check. You walk in and be like, hey, I'm too cool for school, or whatever it may be, your attitude, and you perform, but you don't
Sandeep,
get a feel for the
we're,
room.
we're just jaded old fuckers because these young whippersnappers are passing us by and
I
showing us the middle finger through the window while they do so.
I mean, I'm perfectly fine with that because I won't be able to see the middle finger. But I just feel there's a charm in it, man. Like, I don't arrange chairs, dude. Like, it's sometimes I've been like, are you fucking crazy, dude?
I
I
do.
don't, if
I
I was
do.
in, no, I'm saying if I was in the UK and you're giving me heavy objects, that is a liability
Yeah.
because it's not
Well,
safe
like
for me
I
to
was in
walk
a gig
down.
last week. I
Yeah.
was in a gig last week in Assam, and I was doing this coaching workshop first and then the stand up.
Yeah.
I physically move the chairs myself. I will still do it at any gig that I go to because
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need that room to be perfect for stand up. And I
Absolutely.
will
And
move the chairs, I will create the aisles, I will do whatever I need
yeah.
to ensure that the environment is set up for me to succeed
I think
or
that's an
give them the
important word.
best
I
I
think the
can.
environment, right? And okay,
Yeah.
speaking of environment, what are
Mm.
your thoughts on the environment we're in today? The I don't know what to focus
You know,
on.
it's a funny thing because in many ways, I'm uh, ignorant by choice, and also I don't care. I kind of live in my own little bubble.
Yeah,
I do my own little shows. 99% of my work in India is all sort of corporate and private events, which are all closed doors.
yeah.
I do corporate training. I write a newsletter. I do some writing stuff.
So you
So
can
I don't.
survive by not being. I wouldn't even say survive. I think thrive
Yeah,
by not being on Amazon, Netflix, on being a YouTube
yeah, sure you
star.
can. I mean,
Hmm.
I get 99% of my work from people who've seen me at shows. It's almost all word of mouth. The show that
Hmm.
I did in Assam last week, I did a show for the Entrepreneurs Organization. There were 40 people in the audience.
Yeah.
At the end of the show, one guy literally dragged me out saying, I need you to stay back in Assam for one more day. I have a university. We've got 700 kids that I'm going to get into the auditorium, perform for them tomorrow, which I did, you know.
Brilliant. Brilliant. No, I
Uh,
think it's something for people to hear, and this is something when I spoke to Butch as well, I think he couldn't emphasize enough is, dude, you got to put in the grunt work, not because,
yeah,
some old guy said, oh, I put 30 years into comedy somewhere. No, it just makes you a better comedian. Like, if you spend more time at
yeah,
something you do, some people, of course, some people might take 3, some people might take 6 years. That's not the point. But the point is,
yeah,
you get better by doing the thing that you want to do. Like, if you are on stage, and even if you're doing
yeah,
the same joke 10 times, right? What
yeah,
you discover, I've noticed, is it's like the guitar. You play the same chord, but you find
yeah,
nuances that that make it your own style. That
yeah.
certain pacing that makes it more CJ-ish or Sandeep-ish, or you make
Yeah.
you stand in a certain way which makes you cocky or less cocky. But it's not
You know,
about. Mhm.
I got one of my biggest, I believe, one of my biggest compliments ever was from Butch Bradley.
Yeah.
We were performing at the launch of the Crack House Comedy Club in Kuala Lumpur,
Mhm. Yes.
and he was headlining the first night,
Oof.
and I was on just before him,
Yeah.
and I was supposed to do 25 minutes. Now, Butch that night was, I mean, he was phenomenal. He's one of the best, crowd working comedians that I've
He's one of
seen in
those
the world,
guys, seeing
right?
live is mind blowing. Yeah. Yeah.
And I asked him before the show, and I said, please, I'd love for you to watch my set, and give me some feedback. I'd appreciate. And when we finished the show, Butch came to me and he said, the reason this compliment meant a lot to me is because it came from a road comic who's done the hard yards, who knows how to work a room,
Yeah.
so it comes from a credible person. he told me two things. He said, uh, he said, I want to give you two specific. He said, I don't have any feedback. I want to give you two specific compliments. He said, one is that he said, there are very few people who are good at crowd work. He says, there are maybe 10 comics in the whole world that I have seen who are brilliant at crowd work.
Yeah.
And he said, you're one of them.
Hey, that's amazing. Yeah.
And coming from him. And the second thing he said, he was speaking about himself. He said, listen, I'm damn good at what I do. So I know that I'm damn good at what I do.
Yeah.
He said, but when you were on stage and I was supposed to go after you, he said, I was scared.
Yeah.
He said, I was scared. He said, I told the organizer, he said, I went to Rizal. He said, this guy's supposed to do 25 minutes. When he gets to 25 minutes, he needs to get off. Don't you fucking let him do 1 minute longer. Right? I mean, it's besides the fact that he went on stage and he destroyed
yeah.
He was
but
phenomenal.
That's a sign of a good comedian, right? That he was scared because he wanted to, and that's what I love, man, about this trade.
But for Butch to say that I was scared,
it's a huge compliment. Exactly.
Because I had to follow that. I was like, dude.
No, and I think every comedian, right, would be scared and that's the sense of insecurity or the sense of nerves that stand up puts in you, is that you see someone doing well. And I think that's what I love, right? Is that, oh God, he's doing well. I have to do better. As opposed to screw this guy, he's doing well because he's brown, he's playing that card. You know, some people make those excuses, which is bullshit. There's the ones who don't want to kill on stage.
I mean, there are these blind comics who keep going on about being blind and stuff, and they totally milk it.
Total bastards. And then these guys who are partially blind, they don't know what to milk.
But Brendan Burns, I remember Brendan Burns said that if you really want to know how good a comic is, you follow them on stage. You go perform after them. And I learned that when I had to follow Brendan Burns at Leighton Live in Edinburgh at 2:00 in the morning on a weekend.
Oof.
Fuck, dude, I died on my ass because it's Brendan Burns, man. He goes and shouts at that room for 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then you go there, hello, I'm from India. They're like, fuck off.
Shit. But man, did you ever, like you said, you stayed away from this entire thing, but you're a smart guy when it comes to business, right? So did that ever feature in your comedy journey? Because you said you wanted to get out of the corporate world, but were you smart about, were you funny alone or were you a smart comedian as well? And is it important to be both? I'm going to ask you a question in this case because I don't want to make it only conversational when it comes to this point, because a lot of people listening will think that before getting good, if I click on online, I've made it, or it's better for me to get my website right than get my jokes right. So I want to, for those people, I want to ask you what your approach was. Yeah.
So one, you got to get your jokes right. There's no two ways about that. It doesn't matter how good your website is. If you don't have the jokes, you're not going to be a good comedian.
Right.
But also, this happened earlier in our conversation today. I won't put down the guys who, get these online hits and haven't, picked up the craft yet.
Yeah.
It's purely because this is the generation they're doing stand-up in, So each person kind of makes their mistakes and learns. You'll get a gig, people will come, you won't be able to hold them. You're like, oh, fuck, I need to go back to the drawing board and, figure out what this is. I think it's a function of the generation in which you learn your craft.
Yeah.
And there are different things that you need to learn. But what's really important, I believe, is for you to be authentic to yourself. If live stand-up is what you enjoy, fine. If you want to be a YouTuber or an influencer, perfectly fine. If that's what does it for you.
But different set of muscles being used in each kind, right? Yeah, I think that's important to acknowledge.
But it's important to do what you are passionate about and you enjoy. Not, everybody's doing it, I should do this. Then it's just a job.
That became the kind of mob mentality in the stand-up sort of group of people, was that they have to be on every platform and they have to be present. They have to be. I'm like, dude. And of course, I'm a part of that. I was a part of that frantic, that frenzy, right? But I realized, fortunately, sooner than later, that, dude, it's why am I doing this, right? I mean, first of all, why am I trying to create a meme when I can't see the text on it? Or why am I trying to create? I mean, Instagram is the worst platform for someone like me who can't see, right? But I'm still on it, and so it's just being stupid about it sometimes. But I think just knowing, okay, it's just a platform, it's out there now, and you have more than 5 people, you have another 10 people looking at it, fine. But
we all get caught into it.
yeah,
Sometime or the other, you all get caught into it. You'll do things that you're not proud of, that you regret. You'll be in situations where you try and
yeah.
uh, sort of project yourself, and
I
it's the
think the
worst
biggest thing
part
I
of our
learned,
jobs.
yeah, no, I think the biggest thing I realized is, okay, these platforms are there.
Yeah,
Now, the thing is, I'm sitting at home now. If it's, say, putting it up on X number of platforms,
yeah,
X number of people will see it or listen to it. Now, I put it up on another platform. I'm not going to go viral, but I'm doing it with the intention, doing, instead of X, it's X plus one. So one more
yeah,
person might enjoy it. That's pretty much, I know
yeah,
my awareness, I know my reach. But if
yeah.
if it's not too much work, why not? As
But
opposed to, oh, I
yeah,
have to do it. You know what I mean?
but here's the thing: I turned off for the last 7 months. I've just sort of reactivated my Instagram account,
Yeah,
but for the last 7 months, I had deleted my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram. I
yeah,
was just on LinkedIn.
yeah.
And in fact, I've just started a newsletter on LinkedIn, which is fucking great. I love that. It's
Nice,
made no
nice.
difference to my life. No,
Absolutely.
zero difference.
I think I've
I
been off
just turned
Facebook since
Instagram back
Jan.
on. Because it's toxic. You look at what's happening on Twitter, it's just negativity everywhere.
Oh God,
You
let's.
know,
Yeah, I think
I don't
that's.
need that energy in my life. I don't need it. You know,
I don't know, man. You think there is right now? For me, comedy. The influence was listening to a George Carlin CD, a Rodney Dangerfield CD, or a Robin Williams live at Broadway CD. Right, there was
yeah,
no YouTube then.
yeah,
And just like music recommendations, right? My cousin would be like, "Have you heard the Grateful Dead? Have you heard of Steely Dan?" And I'm like, "Who?" And then you listen to the whole album, right? You're almost
yeah,
like chanting the song along with them, or
yeah,
you're quoting the joke with George Carlin, the bit about, say,
yeah.
those
The
the
environment.
yeah, about how religion's the biggest business scam, whatever, right? You kind of know
Yeah,
every punchline. You're laughing, anticipating the punchline. You know the which you already
yeah,
know, to a point of now. Every day, YouTube feeds you or Netflix feeds you the next special, and earlier you would have to work. I don't know how many years to get an HBO 30
yeah,
minutes or a Comedy Central 30 minutes, or even to get on a show
yeah,
like which you did in 2004 or 5. But
yeah,
do you feel, as a result of so much out there, access points, or so many
yeah,
platforms which I'm not on, but
yeah,
clearly a lot of comedians are on,
yeah.
do you think, as a result of so much, the quality is diluted?
So here's the thing, Sandeep. I don't really think, you know,
That's a
I
good
don't
thing.
really, I don't really think about these things. See, times will always change,
Yeah,
right? We live in a different time now to when I started doing stand up 17 years ago, or when you
yeah,
started doing it 10 years ago.
hmm,
And who gives a shit what's going on? You
yeah,
focus on what works for you.
yeah,
You focus on the things that you enjoy. You focus on the quality of your work. And
mm,
what other people are doing, how does it matter? It really
yeah,
makes no difference. But of course, when there's more volume, there's going to be a greater variance in quality as well. you
yeah,
know
yeah, yeah,
it's like the Edinburgh Festival. It's the largest arts festival in the world. You can
mm,
see fantastic stuff, you can see crap, because it's
yeah,
not a curated festival. It's
correct.
just anybody can show up there and perform.
Mm.
So I think life's too short to waste time thinking about how other people are doing, what that quality is. Do your
And if
own
that
thing.
works for
and
them, it's not going to work for you. Yeah,
and also, I've learned over the years that people never underestimate somebody's ability. Never ever think that somebody is terrible, because people who you think are terrible, we were all
mm,
terrible at some
yeah.
point, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Will turn around and fucking surprise you.
No,
So
the ones
it's
who are
just that,
terrible and know it are the ones who are putting in that much more work into
yeah,
themselves. At
they're
least if
just
they
in
are.
a different phase of their journey, and maybe they haven't
Absolutely.
gotten there yet. So
No, that I can't emphasize, because I've seen and heard people who have been tanking on stage, and then
yeah,
people are like, oh God, it's terrible, whatever. But then you see that person and they hit that stride where they found the right audience who likes them, they found themselves,
yeah.
and it is
And they've
whoa.
posted a special. It's online, and you still think it's fucking terrible.
No, no, those are most comedians, not the ones who hit their
I'm just being an
stride.
ass.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm saying the ones who haven't found a stride have many specials out there. It's just that they were in the right path at the right time,
Now we sounding like cynical, jaded fuckers.
which is great. This is what I look for.
That's our sweet spot.
Yeah, this is what gets me off.
I've sometimes joked that my favorite sound in a comedy club is awkward silence.
Yeah, man, it's So weird. I got back to doing a couple of these corporate shows now in the past month. And,
Yeah,
I haven't written anything since 2020, like maybe a joke here, an
yeah,
observation there, a premise. Like, this will be nice. Like, oh,
yeah,
I've not met any people, so maybe it's good to let's focus on a premise about hating people nicely,
yeah,
something like that. But then,
yeah.
when you come to corporate, you're like, shit, they're paying you. So then I would go back to my, default corporate set.
Yeah.
And it felt so weird. It was almost like I'm looking at myself going, what the fuck are you
But
saying?
here's the thing, Sandeep. I mean, I do a lot of corporate work,
Yeah.
and I do and a lot of comics give corporate gigs, some hate, thinking, oh, this corporate gig is so stuffy, I can't. But the interesting thing is, they're just regular people like us
Yeah.
who like exactly the same stuff. They're just in a slightly different environment. If you
And that's
can,
what pissed me off, that it was not them at all. Yes, out of the 4 gigs, one, the bar was open. I understand all that, but I was like looking at myself saying
yeah,
these things, going, "What are you saying? Like you're
yeah,
sounding rusty. Your timing's off." So this is
yeah,
absolutely not on the audience. I completely agree with
yeah.
you. If the setup is according to what you ask them, of course there is a corporate, so like, screw you, you're just a
But
piece of dirt.
there's
But
also psychological gamesmanship which you
mm,
need to factor in, because I'll give you an example. I did a show for TCS
yeah,
in Pune maybe 10 years ago, 300 CIOs. And in advance, like every corporate gig, they say, oh, this is what our brand stands for. Can you keep it
yeah,
clean? Can you do this? And of course, people get to the show, they have 2 drinks. They're like, yeah, thoda masale wala now.
yeah,
Give us some dirty stuff. But if something goes wrong, then you're the one who has to be blamed.
yeah,
So at the top, I get on stage and I say, listen, I'm here on behalf of TCS.
mm,
They know their brand. However, I understand human behavior. If you can appreciate that the Papa CJ brand is completely separate from the TCS brand,
mm,
I can give you a naughty show.
mm,
Give me a cheer if you want a clean show, complete silence.
mm,
Give me a cheer if you want a naughty show, 300 people cheer.
mm.
Then I look at the senior most client member in the room. I said, sir, what do you suggest we do? He said, please give them what they want. Now, the
Nice.
client's brand is safe. The
Yeah,
audience can get what they want, and I can do what the audience wants. So
yeah.
everybody's a winner. So if you do that, I mean, just recently I did an online gig where I was doing a superb fun, the most fun show I've done in a long time. I was doing a corporate roast. They actually asked me to
Mm.
roast the leadership and the
Ooh,
company.
that's pretty ballsy. Yeah, from
Sa-
then, right?
Sandeep, I did 45 minutes of customized material. I
That's pretty
spent
cool.
6 hours talking to people, getting information. And I remember running one joke past the CHRO before, saying,
Mm.
what do you think of this? And she said, no, I don't think, you should do this. It won't be appropriate. I said, don't worry, just leave it to me. And I cracked that joke and they pissed themselves laughing. And
Nice,
she was laughing the loudest. So, I
nice.
think at some point you've got to trust your own gut and your instinct as a performer, saying, let's not have too many. And the other thing I always say is, it's easier to get forgiveness than to get permission.
True, true,
Don't
true.
ask before, man. Just
Don't ask.
do it,
No, and
and
I'm
then you
just
see what
thinking
happens.
out, thinking of experiences like that because, and the eye condition thing, right? I never sort of
Yeah,
made it my calling card, right? Because you get
yeah,
trapped in it. It is a great sort of
yeah,
recognition. People are like, oh my, you're celebrated, but that celebration dies very soon. Beyond that, if you have nothing else, right? If you're only going around with 5 blind jokes, people, it's like anything else. People realize you,
yeah,
so you have to build your repertoire. You have to build yourself as a comedian, and it happens that one of the things that you have is a visual impairment. So
yeah,
I make it a point not to sort of have that
yeah,
sense of, people are like, oh my god, he's the blind comedian, but I make it establish it that, guys, I can't see, so in case I fall off or I need assistance, it's a physical
yeah,
safety issue, so please make
yeah.
sure that someone is going to escort me to the stage, off the stage, because it's just one of those things you don't want
Tell
to
me this:
fumble
do, do,
around.
pe- do, do people laugh when you say that?
Not really, the
Because they
strange
can
thing.
see that you're fucking blind. I had pneumonia once. I had pains in my chest, and I told them I have serious chest pains. If I collapse, please help me. It's not a joke. The bastards laughed.
Strangely, and that's one of those things, right? I remember when early days comedy store, I had to walk on and I didn't address my eye issue, right? I would
Yeah,
fumble for the microphone.
yeah,
The wire would get stuck. And
yeah,
some people there would be awkward laughter, like chuckles, like, is he doing it intentionally? What's happening? And then I would
yeah,
do one stupid joke, like, this is like last night in bed with the girl who's brow, some stupid shit. And more
yeah,
than them, I would be sweating inside, going, oh my God, it's already fucked up. It's off to a bad start. So
yeah,
now, I don't maybe address it publicly to the audience, but
Yeah.
I tell the event manager, I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
you will hold my arm, walk me to the mic, give me the mic in my hand, make sure where
Yeah.
the water is, not because of anything. It's not a disclaimer to the audience. It's
Yeah.
okay if they are like, what's going on? But
Yeah.
I want the MC to whoever to say this guy is visually impaired, just to make
Yeah.
sure that I am comfortable. Now,
Yeah.
whether I choose to talk about it in my set is my thing, right? But I don't want it to be like,
Yeah.
where is the thing, the spot? And you know how the
Yeah.
spotlights hit you, everyone is blinded.
Yeah.
But even more so, like, and these stages aren't designed with,
Yeah.
access in mind. So there'll be
Yeah.
a pot randomly for aesthetics. So there'll be some
Yeah.
power lamp. And so I don't want any of that to mess with my
Yeah.
thought process before a show. You know what I mean?
In fact, there's a comedian in the UK, at least he was there 17 years ago, called Chris McCausland.
Yeah, he's still around. I, in fact,
Yeah.
I wanted to get him on at some point.
So
Yeah,
he's a blind comic as well. And oh my God, he is so good.
yeah.
So
He's
good.
great observation
You
stuff.
know?
Like, and I think for
Yeah.
him is, and he was one of the people I looked at as, and he's completely blind, so he's visibly blind,
Yeah.
unlike my eye condition where I could,
Yeah.
if I don't have a cane and I don't look at you, you can say this guy is either got a squint or he doesn't make eye contact.
Yeah.
But so it was a big thing for me. Like, should I talk about it? But then right how it becomes. People are like, dude, you should go on India's Got Talent as blind comedian. I'm like, no, man. I don't want that to be
So,
my entire thing. That's one part of my life. Just like
so
how
I've got a take on that, which is I experienced a version of this when I was in the UK,
yeah,
because I was the only Indian comedian in the country, right? And
crazy.
a lot of guys told me that, don't talk about being Indian, right? Because you will get labeled as the Indian comic, you'll get pigeonholed.
Yeah.
But here's my take on this, and I did not agree with them, is if I don't talk about being Indian, who will?
Yeah.
Right? So what the visual impairment that you have is something that does make you different and unique. And the things that you can talk about from the point of view of somebody who's living your life is something that almost no other comedian, at least in India, can talk about.
No, absolutely. And that's where I draw the balance, right? It's important for me to figure out when I meant blind comedian, is the automatic assumption is that I'm the representative for blind people, which I'm not.
Yeah.
Because we have such a diverse country with so many different elements that separate and make us different and unique at the same time. So but at the same time, man, when I talk about experiences or mishaps or embarrassing situations, and now the thing is, just like how you're a guy from Delhi or maybe originally from Calcutta, you've gone through certain experiences in life and you have certain traits. Maybe you are short-tempered, maybe you're light-hearted, whatever makes you who you are. Like
unsuccessful.
That's by choice, man.
Two losers talking to each other on a podcast that nobody will listen to.
Hey, my mom takes offense to that.
Sorry, that mom will listen to. Both are moms.
Yeah. No, I think I don't see. I think and I learned from both examples. I completely ignored talking about my eyes the first 3 years in comedy, right? And I was like terrified of that, right? Because I'm holding on to this thing which is such a big part of me, and it's been a part of for 30 years almost at that point. Few more, So, and as you mentioned, it's something which is truly me, and I can talk about it. Why should I hide it? And that was the day where I felt released, right? And Sham was one of these guys who told me, he said, bro, it's your chink in your armor. It's the vulnerability. It's a thing that is one of the things that makes you who you are. Why are you fighting it? And I didn't have to go by the label of blind comedian, but dude, I can, when I talk about aspects of experiences in my life that where my eyes have come to the forefront, the eye disorder. The moment I do that, I can get away with other shit which is so difficult for others to pull off, because now I'm the disabled guy talking about blowjobs, right? Which a straight guy.
Listen, you're the guy who's always swiping right on Tinder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just anything. I'll take a troll.
Here's a man who will not judge you by the way you look. How awesome is that?
I just don't judge.
That's because you have no standards, my friend. I'm
no
kidding.
stand. That's not the disability.
That's your wife.
Ouch. Yeah. No, man. But it's a personal choice. But I think no, I'm glad that that you're a living example of the fact that you can just live your life and not worry about it, because I think people need to hear that. But what do you do otherwise? Because you're not a guy who's solely sitting and writing jokes every day, right? You do other stuff as well. Which,
Um, for me, I am I just like having conversations. So I'm always looking for opportunities to meet nice people and just strike up conversations.
yeah.
In fact, one of the things I've put out as an offering, so to say, for organizations is for me to be their chief caffeine officer. I'm the
Okay.
guy who people can call for coffee, conversation, or a boost.
How cool
Because
is
if
that?
you think
Okay.
about my background, I'm a comedian. I can make you laugh. I'm
Yeah.
an executive coach. I've been a management consultant, and of course, I've been a friend for many years. So if you want somebody just to jam with, whether you want ideas, whether you want to vent, whether you want to laugh, whether you just need a chat, because today, especially if you look at senior guys in organizations, you can't show vulnerability at home. You can't show vulnerability in the office. And as, so to say, connected as we are in this online world, you
Yeah.
don't really have somebody you can talk to.
Yeah, there's a lot of loneliness out there. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of loneliness because there's no safe place to kind of be who you are, because you're constantly, your threat levels are
Yeah.
high. Will I be perceived as the person who said the wrong thing, the offensive thing, the person who was inconsiderate? It's
Yeah.
so scary and it's sad for many people. And I think most people
Yeah.
are so connected yet have never been so alone.
Yeah, I mean, look at yourself. You had to set up a podcast just so you could find people to talk to, I
Man,
mean.
it's terrible. Yeah. And even that, they don't respond, bastards. Hannah Gatsby responded, and that's literally her team was like, "Yeah, Hannah would be interested. What are your podcast numbers?" And I said, "It's rated as one of the top podcasts on Ghana." They never fucking responded. But
You
you
should
know
have
what?
said it's the number one podcast by a partially blind comedian based out of Bangalore
They
in
started
the Indian subcontinent.
in English.
Yeah, in English.
No, and then it so happened literally like 3 days after that email which I sent, they never responded. The Dave Chappelle special dropped, and then Hannah
Yeah.
Gatsby gets called out for this, all those things, and he said that statement, right?
What do you
Uh,
say?
so Chappelle special where the transgender people are upset with him,
Yeah.
and that he puts out that video saying there are three conditions. If they're met, I'll meet the trans. One is you meet at a time and place of my choosing. Second is you have to watch my special before you come for the meeting,
Yeah.
and third you have to agree that Hannah Gatsby is not funny.
Chappelle said that?
He said that,
Oh,
and
God.
I mean,
Huh.
I was just like, "Oh, is she gonna get on
Okay.
my podcast now? Do I want to talk to her about that?" But it's such a thing, man. Like, right now, maybe there's too much noise, and I'm sort of following the noise. That's why it feels like there's only that being spoken about. But it
Yeah.
just, I don't know, like what I don't. And as you said, right, past you're doing what and you've been doing for many years is doing what you want to do. And I've done that for the past 18 months where I'm just focusing, putting my head down, enjoying things that I do for myself as opposed to things that
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do, right? Oh, he's a great
Yeah.
guitar music comedian or whatever. I'm like, no, I just
Yeah.
play chords. I love playing those three chords over and over again.
Yeah.
But from your sense, and you
See,
said
your wife would be very happy to hear that because that makes you sound like a faithful man.
playing the same three chords again and again. No, trust me, it's not at all the sign she takes. She's like, this guy is really limited in his learning abilities. Three chords, come on, man, at least a fourth. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think there? Yeah, because you said a couple of things which are interesting, like just pick your thing and get good at it, right? But I feel there's a lot of people who want to do all of it and
It's
are
not
not
even
doing.
pick your thing and get good at it. I'm just saying enjoy yourself. Don't do
Yeah,
things because you should be doing them or because that's what somebody else expects from you or
yeah.
that's what you need to do to be seen as
How do
successful
you
in
do that
somebody
though?
else's
From
eyes.
someone with
You know?
18 years of experience, how do you? Okay, I don't know if you have the answer to it, but say someone listening right now, they like they like maybe doing a vlog, right? Or maybe they're really good at marketing,
See,
but they also like.
follow what gives you joy. And what you have to realize is that you do something, you get good at it, and then the money comes. But
But
that
does it
gap
always
between
come though, CJ? Because
exactly that gap between the loving it and the money coming is indefinite,
mm,
right? And that's the period you've got to last out. But also
but
to
yeah,
balance that out, it's very fashionable now to say follow your passion, but passion doesn't necessarily put food on the table.
yeah, I was going
So
to say that.
while you
Yeah,
need to feed your soul, you need to feed the stomach as well.
Yeah.
I mean, today, Shah Rukh Khan dances at weddings.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's not his core competence, right?
Maybe that's
So,
his own. Yeah.
but all I'm saying is every artist does something which he or she in his or her head thinks, oh my God, this is the prostitution side of the business, right?
Right.
But that's what you have to do to be able to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah,
So
because for like a
maybe,
kid starting out now, for a girl, a
yeah,
guy looking at doing open mics, and we're telling them, okay, get good at doing stand up, right? Write the jokes well,
yeah,
whether it's sketch or stand up, improv, whatever
yeah,
the form of expression is.
yeah,
And then they're looking at this Comic Stan, or they're looking at like
yeah,
this America's Got Talent and $1 million deal, and this,
yeah,
and then they realize, shit, these guys are talking shit, man. How do you get good? 5 years to get 10 minutes
yeah,
of material? Are you crazy? I need tomorrow.
yeah,
I need that corporate show. I need that 1 million.
yeah.
So when they're faced with that, and every day they're watching YouTube or that, because that's where you're drawn. That's where YouTube knows that
Yeah, but
the
Sandeep, you learn very quickly, and you learn by getting fucked,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
you watch this shit on YouTube. It's very glamorous. You get
yeah,
on stage, you do 10 minutes, you die on your ass, and then like,
yeah.
oh, this is not as easy as it looks,
No,
right?
that I agree with, but I'm talking about the other aspect where they're being exposed to these videos of like how to get how to get money earned from home or bitcoins or this. So they're constantly being bombarded by all of this, and
Yeah,
I feel for them, and I feel for all of us, right? Because we
yeah.
want to go watch, like, say, Tiger Woods highlights from the championship. Next thing you're like, are you sure you can't get a Ferrari because the kid next door bought a Ferrari by making YouTube videos? And you're like, shit, man, what's wrong with me? Am I incompetent? Am I some? You
So,
know what I mean?
sorry, it just reminded me of an old joke about this guy who's talking to a friend who's a
Uh,
smoker.
right.
And he says, you really shouldn't be smoking. He said, how much do you smoke? He said, I smoke 20 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
So what does a packet cost? He said, it costs £4.50.
Yeah.
He says, how long have you been smoking? He says, I've been smoking for 20 years. So he says, £4.50 multiplied by 365 days multiplied by 20 years. He says, if you weren't smoking, you could have had your own Ferrari by now.
Yeah.
So this guy says, hey man, do you smoke? He says,
Mm.
no, I don't. He said, where the fuck's your Ferrari then?
Yeah. Is there a Yorkshire comedian called Paul Caff? I don't know if I
The
got his name
name
wrong.
sounds familiar, but I left the UK
Right. No, I heard this joke of his,
2008.
right?
So,
His joke was, what was his joke? He said, um, I've given up smoking, and I've given up two of my favorite things, smoking and masturbation. Man, I must tell you, it was really hard because I was a 20-a-man day and I smoked like a chimney. I found that a great line.
there's the other one, right? That my father caught me smoking, and to teach me a lesson, he made me smoke an entire packet of cigarettes at one go.
Yeah.
Say, thank God he wasn't the one who caught me masturbating.
I don't know what it's funny. It makes me laugh, but people are like, oh, do you hear this in your echo chamber or in your circles where people are like, when they discuss comedians, and nowadays everyone is a connoisseur, everyone's a critic. And the other day I had some friends who are like, oh, I know, Dave Chappelle, usually he reacts, he responds to society, doesn't react to society, but in his new special, I felt he was going, I'm like, dude, who the fuck, what is going on? I understand, to each
Yeah,
person their own, they can enjoy comedy, they
yeah,
don't have to, but
yeah,
I don't know, man. Like, I feel there's so much noise, and now, sometimes I would rise to the challenge saying I should represent my art form. Now I'm like, fuck it, the art form will take care of itself. I just have to look out for myself, right? But
yeah,
is there this sense now, and maybe is it a progress? Is it a sign of progress, a sign of evolution in society, where everyone wants to talk about something? Like, everyone knows what is motivating Dave Chappelle. Everyone knows what comedy should sound like, what
it's
words
it's
are.
so it's social media. Everybody thinks that their opinion is entitled to be heard
Yeah.
because everyone can express an opinion now on whatever it is. But
Yeah. And
to
what's
be
your take
honest,
on
I
that?
mean,
You think
to be
that's healthy?
I have no take on that, Sandeep.
Mm.
To each their own. I couldn't be bothered to engage.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. So you
uh,
don't engage them. Right.
I don't engage at all. I'm hardly on social media.
Mm.
I'd rather meet people in person and have real conversations.
Oh,
You know,
that I second as well. A very
so
strong
it's
believer in
just
that. I think,
yeah,
what is your thing on groups like mobs? Because, like, for me, I'd love to meet one on one, and even if it becomes three of us, I'm just like, oh, okay, it just becomes, already you can
Mobs
people,
as in?
mobs as in people, like mob mentality, like when people become groups and then it's like them versus us. It's like this, you know what I mean? Like people now saying the communities, right?
I'm a uh, I follow India's old approach of the theory of non-alignment.
No, what
I'm
I'm saying is like when you're dealing with even a corporate setup, right? Like you are dealing with an organization, say 40
yeah,
CEOs, right? So
yeah,
now it's no longer that CEO might have a name, might have an entire background story, but when they become 40 CEOs, they become a
yeah.
group. So I'm just asking you not as your opinion, but when 18 years of working with people in
Yeah,
numbers,
yeah.
what do you sense happens? Like, do people give up their individuality for that group? I'm saying from making them laugh to educating them to giving them knowledge. What have you observed that happens when multiple individuals come together to form something which is so-called larger than them?
So what I do is uh, I break down that group into those individuals,
Ah, okay.
right? And I especially, so this corporate roast that I did, for example, I'm doing it for an organization.
Yeah,
Not only do I spend 15 minutes talking about the organization and their thinking,
yeah,
but I also break it down to individuals. And
right,
generally, what happens is you pick on the biggest, largest, senior most person in the group. And when that person is able to laugh at themselves, then everybody else comes in line saying, man, if he can laugh at himself and take a joke, why can't I?
right.
And also, I don't single out people. If I'm doing jokes, I will do it on everybody. The other thing is that as a comedian, I don't mind teasing people. I don't
Yeah,
mind embarrassing people. I'm never hurtful.
yeah,
I don't want a single person walking out thinking, oh, I felt bad. And I
yeah,
think there's a difference, because when you're on a stage show in a theater, people have come to see what you do. You can do what you want.
yeah,
But because a lot of what I do is corporate and private events, I'm not going to come into your house or your environment and
yeah,
insult your guests. That's kind of unprofessional.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So for
yeah.
me, there isn't a real point that I'm trying to prove or trying to show myself or something. I'm there to bring joy into those rooms.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think
the
that's
kind of
what
comedian I
happens. We
am.
get warped sometimes, right? We like, does our comedy have to carry a message? Does it have to do this? I'm like, sometimes, man, just make people laugh.
And
And
to each their own. There are some
to each,
comics for whom it's important for that they be an instrument of social change and a voice.
of
I
course,
respect that.
I totally respect that. But
That's not me.
that's, I think everyone carries some sense of that because I feel when you say you make people laugh, it's as important as social change because I think in many ways the person going with a lighter heart, they're going back home, and for a minute or a few minutes they've kind of let go of this armor which they're constantly carrying to protect themselves from what might be out there, right? So I think when people laugh, they're lighter, they go home, they're nicer to their families, and as a result the family's nicer to the
Yeah.
neighbors or whatever. That itself is
So,
change,
but
right?
also, it's not the job of anybody else to tell you what kind of a comedian you should be, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like sometimes
absolutely.
you do a charity show and you do it for underprivileged kids, and they're like, "Oh, why didn't you do it for the animals?" I'm like,
Yeah,
"Hello, I've done it for."
yeah.
So each person has to come from a place of authenticity
Yeah,
and stand up for the things that are important to you. Like when I go to
yeah,
colleges and I see injustice in the way the students are treated,
yeah.
I talk about those things.
Hey, you did something and you got into trouble, right? With one of these colleges. You mentioned it.
I didn't get into trouble. I mean, I
Yeah.
got banned from the college. I don't consider that getting into trouble.
Not trouble, but yeah, you.
You
I
see,
don't
what
think.
happens is I go to these colleges and I have a real problem because, especially engineering colleges,
Yeah.
the faculty has so much power over the students that
Mm.
they treat these campuses like their fiefdoms, and they
Ah,
enforce the most ridiculous rules. There is
crazy.
a rule at a college in the south where if you shake hands with a person of the opposite sex for
Mm.
longer than 3 seconds, it is considered a public display of affection. There is a fine for that.
Dude, that's all. 3 seconds is all it takes me. Anyway, but
There are guards that have been hired on
that's
campus
mental, dude.
to observe this. Now, my problem is there is a college in Noida where if you wear printed pajamas when you sleep in your bed at night, there is a fine for that.
What are they trying to do with this? Because it's happening across the
No,
board. Yeah.
so my problem is that for 4 years, and the students are not allowed to question,
Mm.
right? And for 4 years, they train the minds of the students to not question and not question ridiculous stuff like this. How are they going to question established knowledge? What will they invent or discover or create when they're just trained to be robots who follow instructions that they're given?
Then we're just
So
creating an entire billion people who are just going to be correct for back-end
yeah.
processing jobs like call centers. Just read a
So then
script
I
and read
go
it
and
well.
question.
Yeah.
I go
Yeah.
and question because the faculty has never been questioned. The egos get hit.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
what's happened is that I've learned a way now to get around it. So what I do is I talk to the faculty first. So I
Yeah.
did this at the RV College of Engineering in Bangalore.
Yeah.
So I had faculty members there, and I asked them. I said, I just want to ask you a few questions. I said, firstly, I asked them, do you have kids? They said yes. I said, do you have daughters? Some of them said they did. I said, do you think boys and girls should have equal access to educational resources? Oh, they said yes, they should definitely have, and a few questions like that.
Yeah.
And then I said, would you be happier? Do you think girls are safer on campus, or do you think they're safer on the roads of Bangalore? Well, they said, oh, they're very safe on campus. The roads of Bangalore, not so much.
Yeah.
Then I said, okay, you said that the girls should have equal access to educational resources. But the fact is that the boys can use the library on Sunday, but the girls cannot. Why? Right. Then I also said, the boys have a hostel on campus, but the girls at the end of a college day at 6 o'clock in the evening, they have to get into an auto rickshaw and go 5 kilometers away to stay in their hostel.
Okay.
Why? When this campus is safer. And I said, the reason I'm asking you these questions is because 10 years from now, your daughters will be grown up and asking you the same questions.
So this almost is social change, like in the sense, not social change, but when you get these points addressed, you're kind of defending the students, right? Yeah.
I'm just showing a mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But now instead of just showing the mirror straight away, I ask them on the principles first. I get agreement and then I show them the mirror. And I'm thrilled to say about 6 months ago, I got a message from somebody at the RV College of Engineering saying, listen, you said this 3 years ago. And as of now, they have just opened a girls' hostel on campus at the RV College of Engineering.
That's pretty quick, man. 3 years to build one and open it. That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
So sometimes it does have a positive effect.
Dude, that's superb, man. No, I think CJ, I think, I didn't bring you on to have like an agenda of what CJ has, but I just wanted to talk to you because I think we've had some good chats, whether it's in Edinburgh, whether it's in Delhi when you've come out. And I like that, you come out, even though it's, sometimes it's people come out going, can I get a spot at a show? But we've actually had a good time chilling out. We in fact have more fun after the shows. We have a few drinks and I hope we can continue to do that, whether we continue with stand-up or not. And, I love what...
hey, speak for yourself, bro. I'm continuing with stand-up.
No. I'm not saying that we're stopping stand-up. I'm saying stand-up as it is. I don't know how it's going to go. But I think age is one of those things which is on our side. I think we figured out when we did and we made our mistakes. And I think we enjoy where we are. So... First of all, thank you so much, my friend, for being on this podcast, agreeing to do this at such short notice, and sharing
it was a unique experience to talk to Sandeep Rao sober.
I'm a new man, dude. I'm a new man, and there's nowhere where I could have snuck in my beer. When people ask, why do you drink so much? I'm like, dude, I want to be Jim Jeffries. But no, I think here's to many more years of chilling and hanging out and talking, and yes, and as I mentioned, to playing some golf with you. So I'm going to use my blind card even there.
You go for it, dude. You go for it. So no, when somebody asks you what's your handicap, you're like, dude, hello.
Exactly. It's a no-brainer. It's a scratch.
Cool, man. And just to close it on a sentimental note, I just want to say that I really cherish our friendship. And when I do come to Bangalore, if the first thing I do is I think of you, I think of Praveen, and I think of Sanjay. And for me, you will always be the Tridev of Bangalore comedy.
Oh, that's brilliant, man. It's so good to know because Sanjay and Praveen have left.
And it's always, and the way you're constantly taking the piss out of me, like, hey guys.
Yeah. And I'm so glad I met those two guys when we did and what happened after. But yeah, here's to many more, dude, and appreciate it and good luck with everything you're doing. Continue the good work and have fun in life and stay in touch.
Cool. I will see you on the golf course, my friend. And just put a shout out on your podcast for what you're going to be doing to promote blind golf, people for visual impairment. And this is what we spoke about earlier.
No, absolutely. I think CJ is going to be involved, and I've been talking about it on other episodes, but we're waiting for the organization to formally be registered. But there's some news coming that way as well because I'm I've got something to share. But yeah, everyone listening will hear more about it. And if you're visually impaired, you know how to reach me. And CJ, if they want to follow you, can you drop your social media credentials if relevant, when
Nah, fuck
relevant?
it, man. Balls.
But no, but you can follow CJ.
if,
I'll drop his LinkedIn, his
if they want to follow me, they'll find me, man.
yeah. No, I'm going to drop it in the description, but they will find you. And thanks for sharing all your learning and your experiences with everyone who's listened to the episode today. And till next time, my friend. Cheers.
All right. All the best, buddy.